Grendel is easily one of the best Warframes in the game, and I feel like that's a fact most people aren't really aware of because he just hasn't been super popular for very long. But seeing as he just got one of the best skins in the entire game, I mean, look at this skin. It is absolutely heat. I knew I just had to make a Grendel video to showcase how powerful this frame is because, guys, I don't think you understand. Yes, this is the Warframe that has Nourish innately, so of course he's good. But really his entire kit is just super strong, and the build I have to show you today not only maintains that, but is also zero FORMA. Yet if you are a bit more of an endgame player, don't worry, I do have a min-maxed build also ready to show you. But let's just get right into it. Grendel's passive is very simple. Each enemy consumed will grant you 250 bonus armor. But what does consumed mean? Well, for that you need to use his first ability, Feast. While you can cast without enemies being near you, this one does require enemies to work, and when you do, you will basically just eat the first 5 enemies that are in front of you and store them in your stomach. You will now see in the bottom right side of your screen, right above your UI, is a sort of gut meter that shows the HP of enemies that are being held within your stomach, because they do take 2% of their health as damage every second. And then of course, because we can store up to 5 enemies, 5 times 250 is 1250. So that is just a ton of armor for practically nothing. Just keep enemies in your gut. You can hold down the ability key to expel all of them out of your stomach. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do that. It does trigger toxin on them, but you typically want to keep your stomach as full as you can because the armor bonus is really nice. But this does actually bring up a non-gameplay related point. If you listen to how the ability sounds, it sounds a lot more mechanical, and that is because for this skin, they actually decided to give Grendel an entirely new set of sounds, which is really nice because if you're like me and you hate how Nourish sounds by default, isn't that so much better? Speaking of though, this is possibly the most popular ability in the game, definitely the most popular Helminth ability. And would it surprise you to know that it is actually even better on Grendel than any other Warframe? While it does require an enemy to be in your gut to cast, the viral damage here is a lot higher than the Helminth version. The energy multiplier also begins at 2x instead of I think 1.4 or 1.6, and it will heal you on cast. What I find to be far more powerful though is the viral wave that happens when you take damage. It actually goes up from only triggering 1 stack of viral to triggering 10 stacks, and that is a massive damage increase of almost 2.25x times more damage. Combined with the fact that it is just giving you viral damage on all your weapons, this ability is absolutely incredible. Pulverize is really fun, and while it is going to be our Helminth ability today, if you decide to do that, I will explain it relatively briefly. You cast the ability and you actually turn into I guess the community colloquially refers to it as a meatball, which isn't all that inaccurate. But in this form, your movement is very fast and you gain velocity super quickly. You can't double jump still. It's kind of wherever you're just looking and holding down your movement keys, you just immediately go in that way. And if I bring in some enemies, you will see that bouncing near them does deal damage and also will armor strip them if they are within a certain radius, which is really powerful. But in this form, you can't actually shoot your guns or anything. You can trigger Feast, which is really nice, and it does actually make Grendel even bigger, which is funny, I never noticed that. But yeah, this ability is just really good for movement and kind of for memey stuff. I do subsume it off because I prefer to play a more weapons platform style Grendel. But the build I'm going to showcase will work if you decide to keep it, so that is definitely up to you. The last ability is Regurgitate. And this one is actually a lot stronger than most people think because it has a hidden scaler dependent on enemy HP. Basically, to use it, you just need to put enemies into your stomach and then just cast your fourth ability. You will launch them out where they will armor strip all enemies in a certain radius when they hit the ground or said enemy, while also dealing a lot of toxin damage. But more importantly, it will actually scale off of the eaten enemy's HP, beginning at 10%, I believe. So with the right setup, which I don't have on right now because I am using 0 mods, this actually nukes really, really well. You just have to build for it correctly. While the base radius is pretty tiny, the armor reduction doesn't require that much ability strength, and even though we are kind of getting all of that from our third ability Helminth, being able to just toss the enemies out of your stomach at other enemies to nuke them, that's pretty fun. And before we get to the build, I do want to touch on the fact that Grendel has very, very high base HP, very low shields, and very high base armor. Obviously, this is going to go all the way up to 1650 with just his passive, and then his HP is a little bit lower than this. I am using 2 Tau Forged Azure Shards, but there is a reason for this. So let's get to the build. Beginning with our zero Forma setup, we are going to take a health tanking approach to survivability because Grendel is just really good at it. By using Vitality paired with those Archon Shards, we have over 3000 HP. If you use it with Adaptation paired with the passive armor that he gets, and the fact that casting Nourish will pretty much heal him all the way back up to max HP, you kinda can't die. But seeing as we are health tanking, using Hunter Adrenaline is going to give us practically infinite energy for not even doing anything, converting 45% of damage on HP to energy. And Nourish's energy multiplier does apply to this, so as long as you are taking damage, you will be able to dish it right back out to your enemies with any of your abilities. Hearty Nourishment here isn't required, you can use literally anything else here, but it does clear status effects from you when you cast, and also gives you 5 seconds of status immunity for each victim in his stomach, which is affected by the duration stat, so pretty much every time you cast Nourish, you are going to make yourself status immune for the next 40 seconds. Arcane Bellicose takes advantage of our incredibly high HP to give us 72% more ability strength, and this is the reason we are using these 2 Tau Forged Archon Shards. Without them and only using Vitality, we don't hit the 2980 HP breakpoint to maximize Bellicose, so that is why I tossed them in there. But then with Malt Augmented, this build has a ton of ability strength. And that's kind of because it is Grendel's biggest scaler, making all of the buffs on Nourish that much more powerful. Seriously, right now we have a 4.35 times multiplier on all energy sources, and we're not even counting the augmented strength. The armor reduction on Regurgitate also goes up to 251%, not that I really think that does much of anything, but Pulverize will one-tap armor strip enemies now, and we do want to have a little bit of range for the Viral Wave, some ease of use on casting Feast to eat enemies, and then the slight radius increase on Regurgitate is useful, I guess. But the reason we are building such high strength comes into play if we want to use a Helminth ability over Pulverize, and also min-max the build. This can still apply to this setup, but here's what I have put together. We are putting Ophinum Eyes over Grendel's third, and that is because I really like a type of weapons platform setup, and Ophinum Eyes is a fun Helminth ability I don't see many people use very often. Sure, I could just put something like Roar here, but that's boring, and we're not boring on this channel. By using Archon Vitality, we double the heat procs generated from this ability, and then Archon Continuity is going to make all of the toxin that comes from his kit also apply corrosive. This isn't necessary, but it does say min-max, so I mean, I'd use them if I can. By using Corrosive Projection here, we remove 18% of enemy armor permanently, leaving them at 82%. And that means that if we get Ophinum Eyes up to a 41% armor strip per second, right now it is at 33, we are going to armor strip enemies just by looking at them in 2 seconds. And because the armor strip percentage is basically just our ability strength with the decimal point moved, we need to get 410% ability strength here. So adding in Malt Augmented 60%, we go up to 395. And then if we come in here and then we toss on Power Drift, that is going to give us our final 15% to bring us up to 410% exactly. You just need to use 2 red shards for another 20%, or if you want, just use Augur Secrets here, giving you 24% more ability strength. It gets you close enough anyways, and I think the game just rounds it up, but I prefer the extra range on here, because it does bring us from 29 meters on Ophinum Eyes and 17.4 meters on the Viral Wave Explosion to 35 meters and 21 meters respectively, which is a pretty big increase in my opinion. For both builds, 45% efficiency isn't a problem because of Nourish and Hunter Adrenaline giving us, again, infinite energy, and then survivability is taken care of by the overpowered HP tanking. In terms of weapons, I am using the Tenet Archoplasmor because it kind of just fits the aesthetic of this skin very well, but this Grendel build works with literally anything. The only thing that you don't need to do is mod Viral onto your weapon, which is really useful. But for the Tenet Archoplasmor build, we are going completely raw damage focused. Remember, Tenet Archoplasmor does have multiplicative condition overload, so when we combine that with the 500% damage bonus from Primary Bulwark, which is easily triggered by Grendel's passive, you one-tap everything. And for the enemies that you don't one-tap, you are going to trigger an electric proc on them so strong that they definitely will die after that. To give a demonstration of what the build looks like, you do need to eat an enemy to cast Nourish, so let's do that real quick. And also make sure we actually stack it up all the way so we get the maximum Primary Bulwark bonus. Cast Ophinum Eyes, and once you get your stacks under Plasmor, you will You will one-tap every single enemy that you see. Having an armor strip is really nice because it makes the raw damage off of the Plasmor really, really strong. Why am I on fire? Oh, is it because the enemy that I ate is on fire? That's funny. So yeah, you're gonna one-tap everything. Nothing will be able to survive. The Akicore is also incredibly strong on Grendel. Giving viral damage to all your weapons is just absolutely broken. So against this group of corrupted heavy gunners, they all just kind of get deleted. No surprises here. Use an energy max shard here or anything else you want, it's kind of free. Perdos for the movement speed. It does buff the Pulverize movement speed, by the way. Zeneric for energy. Zeneric isn't really necessary for energy, so you can use whatever focus school you would like. And then for a companion, I would recommend using Nautilus Prime with Synth Deconstruct, Reinforced Bond, Tenacious Bond, and Manifold. This is the most like generic Nautilus build ever, I swear. I hope we get new companion mods soon because their modding is getting a little bit stagnant. But that sums up pretty much everything I have to say about Grendel. This Warframe is really, really strong, everybody. Do not sleep on him, especially with this brand new skin. It looks so good. I'm low-key gonna become a Grendel main because, wow. W design. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. I will see you all very soon for another one. Peace.